Hey, folks, welcome back. This is EarthSky. I am your host, David Adalian. Write that down. We're going to the big island of Hawaii today, the volcano Kilauea, one of the five on the main island of that Pacific island chain. Put on a show for us this week on Sunday. That would be the 25th. Well, it's been erupting since December. It had an episode, and that's a slightly technical term. Let's get somebody out here who can explain it. This is my host today, Arianna Soldati. How are you, Arianna? Welcome.
Great. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Oh, it's great that you could be here. Now, she is a lava flow. Arianna is a lava flow dynamics expert, and you are at the North Carolina State University. I'm glad you could make it. So here's what's going on. Here's what we saw on Sunday. It's pretty nifty. It's even more spectacular when we look at it like that. This is some USGS footage that you can grab off their website if you folks want to see more of that. Anyway, so this is episode 23 of this eruption. It's pretty spectacular. Not pretty, it's very spectacular, period, full stop, spectacular. Arianna, what does episode 23 mean? Tell us what's going on while we watch this cycle around for a while.
Yeah, Kilauea is one of the most active volcanoes on our planet, meaning that it is erupting almost continuously. Now, in order for us volcanologists to be able to distinguish between one eruption and the next, we have set a rule, which is that 3 months have to go by between the end of activity that we see at the surface and it's starting again. If 3 full months do not go by, we say that it's the same eruption, but we can still distinguish between episodes within that eruption. And those might be separated by some amount of time, say a few days or a few weeks that go by in between when we see activity, or also by a change in the type of activity we are seeing. Say we see a lava fountain and then we see an explosion or a lava flow. That may also lead to a distinction in the activity and episodes that we are seeing.
Okay, so but why did it suddenly start? I mean, it was erupting all this time since December, but suddenly it's shooting fountains 1,000 feet into the air. That's like 300 meters for you folks on the metric system. And then it stopped. It's not doing that. Is it going to happen again? I'm asking you about the mechanics here. What's going on underground? How often does this happen, and why? Why does it happen?
Yeah, the main driver of the type of activity that we are seeing, lava fountaining, is gases. So magmas trap a lot of dissolved gas. And then as the magma rises within the feeding system of the volcano, this gas expands. The same as when you open a can of soda and you release that pressure, right? Like the bubbles expand, and if you do it a little bit too quickly, all of your soda is going to come out. The same thing is happening at Kilauea, basically. So whether you have more gases, magma rising faster, these are all things that can affect the type of activity that we see at the surface. The most degassed magma that has lost all of its bubbles is just going to come out gently in a lava flow. But the one that still contains a lot of gas, it's going to get ejected up high into the sky before coming back down.
Well, that's so it's going to happen again. It happens often, and that's why it happens, because there's gas and it blows it up like opening a shaken can of soda. Okay, so this is not currently dangerous. Let's emphasize that. That's not threatening anybody at the moment, but Kilauea can be very dangerous. I think this was from 2018, and it took out a lot of houses, obviously destroyed the road, and it consumed the houses around it. What happened then? What's going on here?
Yeah, so the main difference in this case is just where is the center of activity. Everything that's happening these days is within the summit crater of Kilauea. So clearly nobody lives there. It's in the national park. So it's not affecting anybody because there's nobody nearby. what happened in 2018 was a rift eruption, meaning that a lot of the lava was being emplaced on the sides of the volcano where there are several villages. And unfortunately, one of them, Leilani Estates, was exactly in the path of the fissures opening and the lava fountains and the lava flows. Now, in 2018, we also had activity in the summit crater as well. But again, that activity did not affect people because nobody lives there.
There you go. So let's talk about the greater picture, the bigger picture. In fact, let's go up in space and take a look back down. This is the obvious part of this is the Hawaiian island chain, but the whole thing is tell us what the name of this, the Hawaiian Emperor. Tell us what the proper name is, what we should call this thing.
Yeah, Hawaiian Emperor is fine. And, this activity is driven by a mantle plume. So basically there is part of the mantle that is upwelling, rising up. As it rises, it decompresses, it melts, it generates magma. Now these structures, magma plumes, are extraordinarily stable, we think. So whereas we have plates that move and converge and diverge at the surface, these plumes stay where they are for a very, very, very long time. But the plates move on top of them, and that's why we end up with this chain. Now, in this particular case, the current activity is in the southeast on the Big Island, and then as you go northwest, volcanoes become older and older and older and older, right? So no longer active.
Okay, and this is an effect. We see this all over the planet, don't we? I'm thinking of the Aleutian Islands, maybe, and other island chains, right?
The Aleutian Islands are actually not generated by a mantle plume that is a subduction of one plate underneath another. But other examples of this mantle plume hotspot activity would be the Canary Islands, the Azores, La Reunion in the Indian Ocean. So there are many, many other examples of this type of activity on Earth.
Okay, and are they all shield volcanoes?
The ones associated with mantle plumes, pretty much, yes. That would be the most common.
Right, but there's always volcanism happening someplace on Earth, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I looked it up, and there are 46, according to the information I got, active volcanoes right now. Let's take a look at another one. Here we go. This is Mount Etna. And this is the most active volcano in Europe, right? Where is this? Tell us about what we're looking at.
Yeah, so Mount Etna is in Sicily, Italy. Italy is where I am from, incidentally. It is the most active volcano in Europe. Maybe, Stromboli as well is very active, also in southern Italy. And this volcano is a little bit different, right? It has a little bit more explosive activity at times. That is the ash plume that you can see in this picture, but it also has lava fountaining and lava flows like Kilauea.
And what kind of volcano is this? What's the name of this type?
So Etna also has mainly a shield profile, but it also has had quite a bit of ash layers deposited. So it's a mix. It's a composite volcano.
Okay. There are all kinds of volcanoes. Well, and okay, now here's one. I actually live south of Mono Lake and the Long Valley caldera.
Oh,
yeah. About 100 miles south of there. Here's a beautiful picture. This is, I believe this is the Hayden Valley. It's Yellowstone River. This is National Park, Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming. And it's a very peaceful looking scene, but it's deceptively so, isn't it?
Yeah, so Yellowstone.
What is this thing?
Yellowstone is indeed a volcano. But, it's fine right now. It is not an extinct volcano. It could theoretically erupt again. We know that there's still magma hanging around, but there is no sign whatsoever that there is an impending eruption. And also, when people hear Yellowstone, they think the big super eruptions that have happened a long time ago in the history of the volcano. but actually the majority of Yellowstone eruptions, and certainly the most recent one, have been little lava flows and little lava domes, right? So the type of activity that would be spectacular, but would likely only pose a limited threat to people. So nothing to fear there, I would say.
So here's an incident that happened back in 2024, courtesy of Joshua. I believe that is Celia. It's a little teeny on my screen right now. So anyway, this can happen. So we can go from a nice drive through this. We get in our car. Oh, this is beautiful. And suddenly this is going on. So these are all active regions. And this is, how many super volcanoes are there? There's only a handful, right?
Yeah, there's only a handful. Another famous one is Toba in Indonesia. We have Taupo in New Zealand. So we have a few, but we have not had a super eruption in a very, very long time.
Thankfully. In fact, those super eruptions can go on for hundreds of thousands of years. I'm thinking of what are those called? Tell us about those kinds of eruptions.
Yeah, that's right. There's different kinds. We have flood basalts, for example. Those are definitely eruptions that emplace a really large amount of lava and ash. But you have to imagine that that doesn't happen over a month or a year or a decade or even 100 years. Those go on for hundreds and if not thousands of years. So there are periods of extremely concentrated volcanic activity from one volcanic center, but it's not something that just happens overnight.
No, it isn't, but it is something that does happen. Now, here is an image. This was taken by an EarthSky contributing photographer. We call that the EPC. There's anyway. There's a link in the description. You guys can go and check that out if you'd like to share your nature photos with us. We'd love to have them. Anyway, this is back to May 25th, last Sunday. Paul Pett, who lives in Hawaii, shared this with us. It's also the thumbnail for the video from today, so let's give him credit for that. But I wanted to ask you, can we predict these things? Can we know when they're going to happen, or are we trying to? What's going on?
We're definitely trying. Volcanology is a young science, and we have been making amazing progress in understanding what drives volcanic activity, and trying to understand and interpret the signals that may herald its start. But we're not able to issue forecasts comparable to, say, weather forecasts that people are familiar with, right? So the first thing that we need a monitoring network. Not all volcanoes in the world have a monitoring network, unfortunately. In fact, the majority do not. Here in the United States, we are pretty lucky to have had the technology and the investment to support it. So, for example, Kilauea is heavily monitored, okay? So we're going to be able to tell a little bit more about how we expect the volcano to behave in the coming weeks and months, because we can rely on all of these seismic signal and gas emission signals and ground deformation signals, and we can interpret them. But you really, what we cannot do is say, well, in 2 days, a really spectacular lava fountain is going to start and it's going to last for 3 days. That is outside of what we are currently able to do. We can say, yes, there is magma rising, there is activity coming. Putting an exact time frame or forecasting the magnitude, the intensity of the eruption is not something we are currently able to do.
Maybe someday. Arianna, fascinating stuff. I love volcanoes. Everybody loves a good explosion, right? I just hope that, I want to have you back. So next time, let's hope it's not a disaster when it comes. This interview certainly was not a disaster. This was fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. Hang around backstage and we'll chat afterward for a moment. I need to tell our audience goodbye. Folks, wasn't that great? Was that not some great stuff? Thank you so much, of course. And a special thank you today to those of you who have donated to our ongoing fundraising campaign. Part of EarthSky's nonprofit mission is to educate. We are a nonprofit in part, and about science. So that's what we're doing here. And you people make that very important work, even more important today, I think, possible. There's a link in the description. If the spirit moves, go click it and keep us going here. We will be back tomorrow on Friday. I'll be joining Deborah Bird. Same time. We're going to round up this week's top science stories. And I will see you then. Hit like, hit subscribe. Do not miss out. One Earth, one sky, EarthSky. Bye, folks.